Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, be honest. Do you ever pause mid-sentence, suddenly wondering which tiny word comes next? Like, is it arrive to or arrive at? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to demystify those frustrating little English words, prepositions, and we're going to turn them into powerful tools for your professional fluency.
Here's a quick roadmap of what we're covering today. We'll start with time and place foundations, then contrast location versus movement, followed by dependent partnerships. After that, we'll dodge some common pitfalls, look at idioms for natural flow, and wrap things up with executive idioms. Let's jump right in.
All right, Section 1, Time and Place Foundations.
Okay, let's dive into this. These are the absolute bedrock rules for the big three English prepositions. Think of in as a large, static box that contains you. It's for being inside enclosed spaces or large areas like in London or in England. Now, over on the right, at acts as a highly specific, exact pin dropped right onto a map. You use it for precise coordinates, like at 34 Baker Street or at the door. So just remember, in is the container and at is the exact coordinate.
Now, let's look at how this works when we talk about time. We're walking down a descending scale here. Notice how our focus narrows? We start wide at the top with in for general years or seasons like in 1999 or in the summer. Then we step it down a bit to on for specific days, like on Monday or on December 25th. And finally, we drop that highly specific pin with at for precise moments, like at 7 o'clock. So it's always wide to narrow, large to precise.
Moving on to Section 2, Static Location versus Active Movement.
Mastering this next concept introduces a really crucial level of fluency, where we contrast unmoving locations with dynamic action. Look at the static dot on the left. This represents a completely fixed position. She lives in France. You're already inside the container. But take a look at the active arrow on the right. This represents dynamic movement toward a destination. They're going to France. So in locks your position in place, while to actively launches you toward your destination.
And this brilliantly illustrates the physical journey of movement versus state. Let's walk through this three-step physical journey with a car. Step 1 is active movement toward the inside. You get into the car. Step 2 is your static resting position. You sit in the car. And step 3 is your active exit movement. You get out of the car. Notice you don't get out from the car, you get out of it. Seeing this clear contrast of into against the static resting state of in really makes the rules click instantly. Which brings us to Section 3, Dependent Preposition Partnerships.
So, this is where we shift away from physical space and talk about collocations. These are the grammatical connections that will instantly improve your conversational flow. You see, some verbs and prepositions are unbroken rhythmic teams. They form a sort of musical rhythm in English, and you literally cannot swap them out. You believe in, care about, apologize for, belong to, and depend on. You can't say you believe on magic, right? The verb believe absolutely demands in. Treating these as single, unbreakable units of vocabulary is going to make your English sound incredibly natural. But you do have to stay on your toes, because some verbs demand entirely different prepositions depending on the context. Take the verb wait. If you're interacting with a person, it's wait for John. But if you're occupying a place, it's wait at the restaurant. Or look at agree. You agree with a person, but you agree on a plan. The verb stays exactly the same, but the partnership shifts based on whether you're dealing with a person, a place, or negotiating a plan.
Section 4, Dodging Common English Pitfalls.
Listen, please don't worry if you've made mistakes here. Even highly advanced speakers fall into these prepositional traps all the time. But let's eliminate the most common ones right now. Looking at the left, have you ever heard someone say go to home or arrive to? These are massive traps. On the right, we have the corrected rules. Home is a magical exception word in English that just flat out rejects prepositions of movement. You just go home. And firmly lock this one in your mind. The phrase arrive to simply does not exist in correct English. No way. You either arrive in a large area like Paris, or you arrive at a specific point like the hotel. Now, what's really fascinating about this one is the vast difference in meaning between having a life experience and your current physical state. On the left, she's been to Italy. This means she went there and she has already returned. She has the life experience of visiting that place. Now look at the right. She's gone to Italy. This means she traveled there and is still physically remaining in that location right now. It's a tiny word switch, but it completely changes the reality of where that person actually is.
All right, Section 5, idioms for natural flow. Now that we've cleared those traps, let's add that final polish to your conversational flow. Idioms can be tough to remember, but let's use a fun memory hook for out of the blue, which means happening entirely unexpectedly. I want you to visualize an unexpected phone call or a sudden event literally dropping out of a clear, unclouded blue sky. There was absolutely no warning, no dark clouds, it just fell right out of the blue.
Here's another great visualization trick for the idiom by heart, meaning learned and memorized perfectly. Imagine taking a newly memorized poem or a really important speech and placing it physically inside your chest. You didn't just learn it with your brain, you memorized it so completely that you hold it by heart.
Finally, Section 6, executive and business idioms.
Okay, this is where we level up and group together the formal idioms necessary for boardroom presentations and high-level communications. Look at how we map these executive phrases. Instead of saying you are responsible for a department, you elevate it and say you're in charge of it. Instead of saying the company is owing money, it's in debt. You aren't just representing your colleagues, you speak on behalf of them. And when you summarize something, you do it in brief. Substituting basic descriptions with these formal idioms instantly commands respect and polish in any business setting.
So the crucial takeaway here is building what I like to call a high-pressure toolkit. When you're giving a stressful project update, confidently deploying these exact phrases demonstrates true executive presence. You tell the stakeholders that the situation is under control, even if your team is working under pressure. You explain how the theory works in practice, you ensure they book things in advance, and you keep your communication concise and to the point.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We built a foundation, explored movement, fixed common errors, and walked right into the boardroom. So here is my enthusiastic challenge to you. Look around you right now. What prepositions correctly map your current time, location, and movement? Are you in a room, at your desk, moving towards your next big goal? Apply this knowledge immediately. Mentally label your own environment and solidify your path to true fluency. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.